Picard, Season 3, Episode 10, the finale! All good things must spin off. Hey, it is Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming right at you here from the heart of Trekland and letting the dust settle just a bit on all the new Trek headlines so that instead of a quick take or a hot take, you get a second opinion from Dr. Trek. Hey, I have been writing, editing, interviewing, witnessing, hosting, archiving, dot connecting, and, fanning Star Trek for a while now. And I just wanted to say, well, what can I say? Everyone is falling all over themselves with praise for the finale of Season 3, the finale of the whole series. Yeah, gut praise. Now look, Terry wrote this segment. He's got the credit. And he directed. Of course, he directed 9 and 10, the way directors have been put in charge of 2 episode blocks at a time. So he's wrapped up the season, and we're all wrapped up in praise. Now, I've seen maybe the 1% criticism is about what's it all about besides still. What's it all about besides nostalgia and just the action of the moment? More on that later. But I really don't know. I really don't know what I can add to this pile of praise. But in our best Trekland tradition, I'm going to try. Okay, just some small moments to start with, okay? Avoid planet Earth. Save yourselves. Okay, in the ongoing tradition, Terry has this season of harking back to the movies, original series, and Next Gen, sure. You got vibes of Star Trek 4 there, which was cool, unexpected and cool, but even more so hearing from Anton Chekhov. Yeah, the voice of Walter Koenig, that was awesome. Hearing that Chekhov is not only the president of Earth and delivering the distress message there, but he talks about his father and even drops into a bad Russian accent there. A very, very bad Russian accent to deliver the distress call. And I watched it and was just thinking the whole time, ha ha ha, Anton Chekhov, they finally flipped the confusion factor there. It was as bad as Mr. Spock and Dr. Spock originally in the 60s and 70s. Chekhov is with and without an H, and here's an Anton without the H. And then a couple of days later, someone pointed out that it was probably a memorial for Anton Yeltsin playing Chekhov in the alternate universe, in the Kelvin universe. But I still think it was a good poke back at all the confusion over Chekhov all these years and just making a comment. Okay, it's a double whammy. It doesn't have to be a choice. It can be both. And then this gag about triggering transporters by being tagged with a phaser beam. Now, it was a great idea, and it sounded like the original cool idea of this episode, and it is. But it's also worth noting that the Space Pirates back in Gambit, the 2-parter on TNG, did the same thing. So yay for Starfleet for catching up. I couldn't help but notice, but the kids, that's what I'm calling the assimilated bridge crew, couldn't help notice that the kids are transported by phaser into Transporter Room 1. Of course, one thing this reunion did not have was Chief O'Brien. So it couldn't be Transporter Room 3 without Miles. I guess when you're the most important person in Starfleet history, you don't have to show up for every little galactic crisis after all. And hey, this outing, as it has all season, had something for everybody. We had the shippers and the character folks. We had the tech heads. And I got to say, those beauty shots in the beginning of the Enterprise D majestically turning in space, and that long, lingering, loving, close pan over the top of the saucer and the reverse pan as it sped by, I couldn't help think that they're getting the front edge of the hull there just to reassure everybody that they got it right, that there's clearly the 10 forward pattern of windows, 2, 3, 2, there in the front. Remember everything on the Picard premiere, the first thing we saw, aside from hearing Bing Crosby's Blue Skies, was the D coming at us so that everybody could get all feel good, nostalgic, and reassured at the very beginning of this wacky new show. And then you had the uproar over the fact that it was the original window hull arrangement where the windows weren't even in the right place, much less the right pattern. They weren't the season 2 model when 10 Forward was built and the hull ostensibly was remodeled. My headcanon, of course, was that that was a dream. It was surreal. It didn't have to match. And guys, you didn't notice later on, it was obviously a dream. So it was fine. This, however, was no dream. This was real. This was red clouds, not blue skies. And thank you, phaser beams. Oh my God, glorious phaser beams in that ship-to-ship battle, the battle of Space Dock 1. Phaser beams, they do exist. Although, my headcanon is that all the pew-pews we see on board ship, those are engineered, that's a setting so that when you're aboard ship, you can target a moving body without wiping out, an important system, circuitry, or an exterior bulkhead cut out to the wall. You're not going to cause property damage, structural damage, while you're, doing the mean end of a phaser barrel. The ship at the end was parked at Pier 23. Pier 23 is a famous tourist spot along the Embarcadero in San Francisco. San Francisco's vaulted tourist spot. So there's that. Oh, and most of all, did you happen to see, I think this was intentional, the side of Data's good old ops console close up? Well, you can read it for yourself. And if you don't know about Star Trek and the 47 by now, check out portal47.net. Or just go read about Pomona College. Now, all of our characters were locked in the mode of where they were. The Titan crew, the bridge crew, they were too under the gun, literally, to have a pause. But our heroes on the D, our little class reunion, you couldn't escape the feeling of doom and gloom, the grimness that wrapped around almost everything they did by this point in the story, right? I mean, everyone, including Picard, at some point takes a moment to look around and realize that their little class reunion here, the joy is behind them. They're facing potentially, well, the last time they're going to see each other, much less these surroundings again. And that all this nostalgia is, it's born out of desperation. It's not a field trip. I mean, Data and LaForge had another one of those looks, those exchange glances this week. Only this one was 10 times more serious than a week ago. This was in line with the gravitas of the moment. And that all their luck of the past, all the joy of the success so far, might still be all for naught. The other big meaningful look here, something we've never had before, is Riker Troy, because we've never had them married. We had a few minutes in Nemesis, but we've never had the gravitas of them. And now they're on equal footing. The damage between the two of them has been wiped away in the crisis. They're back closer than ever, just in time to be potentially torn apart. And you feel that with every beat. We've never got to see Jonathan and Marina play this before. And they certainly get their moments. Of course, they were the original duo of kept the relationship going with meaningful glances. So they're the experts. They are the top of their class at the Academy in keeping this going. And now that it's written in for them, now with the weight of their lifetimes together and their kids and their kid, I'm so glad that they gave them moments, that not only the script, but the editing gave them those moments. Of course, it was verbalized at time. The moment when Riker is off on his own and it looks like the end is near and he's talking to Troy, he calls her Imzadi, and his way of saying he doesn't think he's going to make it back. Just saying that we'll be waiting. Doesn't have to mention an afterlife. He just says, we'll be waiting, me and our boy. And that was a verklempt moment for me, yes. Even though he doesn't mention Thad at all, uh, it was I was crushed. I mean, and think about this. We've never ever seen Thad on screen. We saw him as a baby in a still, but we never saw any of the Thad drama played out. It was talked about back in season 1 in Nepenthe. It's referenced here a little bit. He may even get more mentions and intimations than Kestra does. But it's a testament to how well these two, again, play it off, and those around them, knowingly, led by Picard, know the drama of that situation. We had the conversation earlier about staying on Nepenthe. It's a testament to these two and this very spare writing that it packs such a wallop, and we'd never seen any of that acted out on screen. It's amazing how we go from the verklempt moment to knowing that his death goodbye is weaponized. Him going to the Imzadi signal is what lets her Beta Z telepathy, her empathy kick in. And an Imzadi signal is way above most mortals' empathic contact with a Betazoid. Not fully Betazoid to Betazoid telepathic, but it's enough. It's enough to surpass, faulty Starfleet scanners. It's what saves the day. So yay, Betazoid telepathy, empathy, the Imzadi link. Lwaxana would be proud. And speaking of Lwaxana, they did it again. At the end, Riker is exiting the D bridge for the last time. He has a computer message to him, and he says, "I miss that voice." Those in the know, and who isn't, knows that's another nod to Majel. It's another nod to Majel. But you know what? There was another usage of her voice earlier on when Crusher is scanning to separate Jack's brainwave out from the collective noise. She's scanning, and you hear the computer answer as it puts up the graphic, right? Encephalographic pattern located. That's an actual line, verbatim, from Violations back in season 5 of TNG this time. It's so cool. By the way, it is Majel, not Majel, not Magel. It's Majel. You would think after 30, 40, 50, 60 years, you'd think after she passed 15 years ago that we could get that right. Looking at you all out there, some podcasters and YouTubers. Majel! By the way, it's Pavel, not Pavel. Check off. Oh, okay. Displaying some of that vaunted Starfleet cross-training. Shout out, kudos to Dr. Oak. It was great to see her again. Know that she didn't beam over to the Intrepid early on. She's still in there fighting. She's in the bridge crew, and look at her take over comms. I mean, and why not? She's got the inspiration of Dr. Crusher, and Counselor Troy handles that comms station like a charm. Like she's been doing it her whole life. But admit it, didn't you just tense up a little bit when Deanna made a beeline for the con chair to take the helm? But hey, she totally redeemed herself here for all those years of snarky memes coming out of the D-saucer crash in Generations, right? In fact, I would say she's totally rememed herself. Okay, I know this was a finale, but I still have some questions. Such as, okay, Vadic's face, that was the Borg Queen all along. Okay, well, that was some pretty weird hollow projecto bonded frequency thing going on there. I mean, I want to know more about that cutting edge technology. Jupiter Station, is it gone or just bypassed? Opposite side of the planet from the giant red spot? And here's one. What are the gray panel tops? Our new friendly Cook character. What does the gray mean? It's right there alongside the blue, the maroon, and the yellow. It's a different color. Is that non-coms? Is that some kind of food service prep special color? Intriguing minds want to know. Intriguing minds also want to know, he called himself a cook, but is this the same character that was referred to as a mechanic in the end credits? Things change. Just curious. But and this might be too deep a cut, but that whole moment where he demeans himself and says, "I'm just a cook," and Seven has a wonderful captaincy commanding, she's going to be just fine in the central chair when she tells him to take a seat and he can pull this off. What a reassuring bit for her. But you know what? This might be too deep a cut, but I immediately thought of the scene in the movie Patton where he takes command for the first time in North Africa of an American unit that just lost big time to the Germans in their first engagement for a severe lack of discipline. And Patton's walking through the barracks and the offices, has a conversation with the guy, looks down and says, "Where are your leggings?" As a symbol of lack of discipline. "Where are your leggings?" And he's told, "Well, hell, General Sir, I'm just a cook." He says, "You're a soldier. $25 fine." Too deep? It was fun. And of course, that cook came through just fine. Okay, time for some big thoughts, some scene moods here. And I got to say, as much as last week, it seemed like such an eye roller throwback, easy reach moment when the red door reveal turns out to just be the Borg. I got to say, there was something in the finale this week about creeping through a Borg corridor. It just seems so much like home in a drama. I got to say, and having Riker and Worf be the creepers with the green light and the alcoves and the fog swirling, somewhere between Q-Who and Best of Both Worlds, it does feel like that's where we all started. It does feel like we've come home full circle. Most of all, I never thought I would hear myself say this, but it feels like I just saw Star Trek wrapped up in a Star Wars level grandeur, scope, and it wore it so well. I don't know, small screen or big screen, when I've ever felt that before, much less at least in a Prime movie. I'm not saying Star Wars. I'm talking about that level of use the universe, use the frame. I mean, the D navigating inside a Borg cube, swooping and all of that. Now, I did a little computation here. The Enterprise D is a little over a third of a mile long. A typical cube is nearly 2 miles. So that's 6-to-1 ratio. And you know what? This cube is only being utilized, 35%, 39%. So 2/3 of the cube is open space, if not underused. So it makes sense. It makes sense. My canon brain can live with that. My head canon can live with that. It can live with it. But most of all, don't you dare pry away that expert flying and driving. Data was doing that. And we don't even think about Data as a hotshot pilot, not the same way we think about Paris or Mayweather or even Detmer on Discovery. Same way we don't think about Beverly being skilled back there at the weapons console at Tactical. But 20 years is a long time. But no, it works for me. And there is no way on God's green earth that you're going to pry that image of the D swooping and barrel rolling, or of that huge, humongous hovering moment right above all the heroes. They're within a deck or two of the Unimatrix level. That's what I mean by grandeur. That's what I mean by scope. We've never seen that before, had that before, and it was a moment. Yeah. I'll take that. I can live with it. But in the end, you can always depend on the Borg to be the Borg. I mean, they seem huge and scary and intimidating and relentless. But that very intertwined power always is their Achilles heel. If you can just find that chokehold, right? The choke point, that simple point of weakness, you can turn them all off with like one move. Maybe it's concentrating fire on one point in the Borg cube, first contact. Maybe it's a sleep command, best of both worlds. Maybe it's a simple torpedo tube down a maintenance shaft in a trench well. Oops, sorry. Oh, sorry, crossing the streams. But it's there if you just can survive long enough to find it. And then, how do you not end with this crew in a poker game? And how do you not end with the overhead shot? It was so masterful not to cut away to the credits, to have the credits rolling over that drone shot, that straight down shot. By the way, what an amazing opening. I know everyone's talked about it, but having the D be the ship at the end, the opening title, the little Star Trek branding at the very beginning, and then to have it Borgify at the end. Have we ever seen that happen aside from maybe the Inner Mirror, Darkly Mirror Universe credits on Enterprise? I don't think so. Anyway, bravo. It was just another special touch for a special episode of a special season. But most of all, what I loved about this finale, this wrap up, unlike the Voyager finale, we had a resting moment. It wasn't all about defeating the Borg. We actually had scenes. We took some time. I don't know, what was it? 25% of the episode to do the after scenes, to do the post-climax scenes. And oh my gosh, everybody got a moment. Everybody got a wrap up. I mean, it was so many goodbye scenes. We had family makeups. We had the class reunion where nobody wants to go home. Yeah, we had the fresh coat of paint on the new workplace moment. And part of those wrap up scenes was Tuvok, just as I predicted, aside from the fact that Tim Russ slipped up in his socials and said he was in for 2 episodes, and we only had the one when he was a changeling Tuvok. Thank goodness that changelings are still changelings, because, we already seen replaced changeling duplicate originals like Bashir, like Martok. They're not killed off. They're held somewhere for some reason. And thank goodness these rogue changelings aren't that rogue. And what a way to have Captain Shaw still present in the finale. It was only fair and fitting. And he's still got an emotional wallop of a scene. And as his message unfurled and Tuvok ended that scene with the promotion for her, millions of Seven fans, millions of Jerry fans around the world were jumping up with fists of joy, saying, yes, 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 even before we knew what that final scene was going to be. But bottom line, and this is what I've said with Discovery and all the series since, I mean, we have opinions now, hot and cold, good and bad, about all these series. But the thing I keep coming back to is whether it's the controversy of the week or the thing we're just so gush-worthy about, what are we going to think about these episodes, these seasons, these season-long arcs in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, or when the Vulcans get here in 40? What's going to be the long-term takeaway? Do they really have the staying power with commentary and insight that all the legacy series had? Most of the time. I mean, I was wondering about this as this season unspooled, and the one criticism, the cautionary commentary that I saw from that 1 or 2% was that aside from the nostalgia and the action of the moment, that there was no other there with this year. Now, I thought for a while, one of the comments of this season, one of the commentary metaphors this season might be some kind of a comment about weaponized genocide by the good guys and how it's viewed a few years later. Okay, there was a touch of that. The last couple of episodes here, I wonder if we're going to get into some big statement about, I don't know, something with a generational divide and about the dangers of becoming too interlinked and too networked. But most of all, I think it's personal. I think it's internal, not international. I think it's all about just the values of family and family, real and found, and friendship and those connections and bringing circles to a close. Yeah, life closure, resolution, realizing that scab, that scar, that we papered over, at some point, it has to be dealt with. The healing has to come at some point. You can only put it off for so long before it cries out for a true healing, whether it's mental or physical. But who saw that cue moment coming? Good thing Jack speaks 13 languages. I hope one of them is continuum. And yet, what of Laris? I mean, it's only been a week. Hey, I think I'm going to let the whole season kind of mentally marinate. I think I'm going to go back and do a rewatch before maybe I get into some of these bigger questions besides the plot of the week. So much has been on our plate, so many smiles and laughs, and yeah, verklempt moments, so many gobsmacking, gut-wrenching twists and turns. It is going to be interesting to see this series of chapters as a whole, and even eventually maybe even weigh it in the entire saga of the Next Generation family, Picard on down. So I think I'm going to be back with that in a few weeks. But for now, I think I'm going to be signing off on this second opinion. But hey, that's me. What did you think? Come on, leave a comment below if you would, please. And, like and subscribe, hit the button, do all the things. Hey, I dare you. I dare you to subscribe for some sane Star Trek commentary out there. Most of all, if you do enjoy my Dr. Trek's perspective here, I invite you to check out all of our experiences, our podcasts, our live streams, like the Trek Files, like Trekland Trek's day tours of location sites, like Trekland Tuesdays Live on Tuesdays, and yeah, even Cadet Alice and Dr. Trek Watch Prodigy. Check it all out at my page at LarryNemecek.com. Hey, there's a TeePublic store there too. And until next time, Trek well, everybody.